much, Ms. Melito. Now we'll hear from Mr. Knapp.
Thank you, Chairman Vitter and members of the committee. My name is Frank Knapp. I'm the President and CEO of the South Carolina Small Business Chamber of Commerce and Board Co-Chair of the American Sustainable Business Council, which through its network represents 200,000 businesses. Clean water. Everyone in this room wants it. Small business owners want it, and they understand that the way we protect it is through regulations. National scientific polling commissioned by the American Sustainable Business Council found that plenty of support by small businesses with fewer than 100 employees to protect our waters. The survey showed that 80% supported the WOTUS rule, 62% agreed that government regulations are needed to prevent water pollution, and 61% believe that government safeguards for water are good for businesses and local communities. Now, there's no denying that any regulation will be a burden on small businesses directly impacted by the regulation. While we all want clean water, we want to achieve the goal of the Clean Water Act with as little burden as possible on small businesses. In 1980, Congress passed the Bipartisan Regulatory Flexibility Act, which was supposed to solve the problem of excessive burden on small businesses while allowing for needed regulations. The RFA worked. Which brings us to the issue of the RFA and the WOTUS rule, which was intended to answer the loud call for clarification on what waters are and are not covered under the Clean Water Act. The EPA believed that it complied with the RFA, even though it did not conduct a Small Business Regulatory Enforcement Fairness Act panel. The Office of Advocacy disagrees. There are no bad federal agency actors here, only a significant disagreement that will be settled by the court. Should the EPA have conducted a SBREFA panel, the court will decide that. However, the reality is that the Clean Water Act is a very complex law, making the regulations to implement it very complicated and controversial. While the promulgation of almost all other regulations is managed with little problem, WOTUS is an anomaly. Therefore, it certainly doesn't justify significant changes to the RFA, and certainly not to the changes of which I have seen proposed by the House or Senate. The regulatory reforms being offered either add more federal agencies to be subject to the RFA or add more administrative duties and requirements to those agencies already covered by the RFA without any additional resources. The result is not going to benefit small businesses, which need fair, well-crafted regulations produced in a timely fashion. Instead, the results will be better described as deregulatory chaos. Federal agencies will take even longer than current years or even decades to promulgate regulations. There will be even more avenues for opponents of regulations to delay regulations through litigation. Businesses will face even more uncertainty due to longer time needed to promulgate regulations and increased litigation. The reality is that there is nothing wrong with the RFA, but here is what needs to be done to allow it to work in today's more complex and fast-moving nation and government. First, we have created a public impression that all regulations are evil, and if we would just get rid of them, the economy will thrive. Cost is all the public hears, never the benefits of regulations. For example, the EPA and the Corps of Engineers estimate that permitting and mitigation costs under the WOTUS rule will increase by tens of millions annually. These are direct costs, and some believe that indirect costs should also be reported. But there's no analysis showing how these direct costs are also direct benefits to the local economy, because most of this money will go to local small businesses for goods and services. The money just doesn't disappear. It flows through the local economy directly and indirectly. The economic, health, and social benefits of rules put in terms of dollars is not considered by the Office of Advocacy and the regulatory agencies. Whether this is by statute or custom, this must change if we are to get truly accurate data to make rulemaking decisions and give the public complete information about the value of regulations. Second, everyone wants more outreach and better analysis of regulatory impact in promulgating a rule. So let's invest in that. We have essentially starved the regulatory agencies and advocacy while at the same time wanting both to do more. And then when the machine gets clogged up and controversial, we want to fix the wrong problem and make more problems. The RFA process we have today simply needs more resources so it can run more effectively and efficiently. Third, once a rule has been promulgated and hopefully the burden on small businesses has been reduced as much as possible, the job of the federal government is not done. Small businesses need to be educated about the new rule and, when necessary, provided regulatory compliance assistance. Congress has also set up a process for this, not only within the regulatory agency, but also through the SBA Office of the National Ombudsman. Where the Office of Advocacy works on the front end of the development of significant regulations, the Office of the National Ombudsman is charged with helping small businesses on all regulation compliance on the back end. It serves as the conduit for small businesses to have their grievances about compliance problems or other issues with federal agencies heard directly by the agencies in question in an effort for successful resolution. In this way, the Office of the National Ombudsman and the agencies can detect patterns of compliance problems so that the agency can revisit the rule. This is an important component of the rulemaking process that is woefully underfunded and thus underutilized. If Congress really wants to help small businesses deal with the new federal regulations, invest more in the small businesses outreach, support, and feedback loop. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I'll be glad to answer. You actually have a question answered. First of all, I do want to point out that we don't self-describe. We are no more self-description than the National Association of Manufacturers represent the manufacturers, and the FIB represents their members. Look,
Just to be clear, I was just referring to the name of the organization, which is the South Carolina Small Business Chamber of Commerce.
That is correct, and we are in fact that. And also the American Sustainable Business Council, also representing about 2,000 businesses, 200,000 across the country. So the question then is why are we outliers? And I do not disagree with that assessment of traditional business organizations. We in South Carolina are only concerned about small businesses. We do not have to worry about big businesses. They'll take care of themselves. And it's been our experience in South Carolina that when organizations that represent businesses in general typically will come down on the side for whatever's in the best interest of big business. And I think it's very clear that if things are in the interest of big business, that doesn't mean they're always in the best interest of small businesses. So yes, we do take positions that are often in disagreement with other business organizations, but we do back that up with research, and we do back that up with logic and our experience. So I appreciate your question, though.
Okay. Well, just to be clear, in terms of where I'm coming from, I wasn't talking about U.S. Chamber of Commerce. I was talking about specific small business organizations that I'm familiar with. I'm still very, very different on all the issues I mentioned.
Yes, sir.
To that point, how are you all funded?
How are we all funded? Well, if you're talking about the South Carolina Small Business Chamber of Commerce, we are funded with dues. We are not a very well-resourced organization, and we do have dues. We do have other sources of income working on special projects. The American Sustainable Business Council is, again, a dues-structured organization, both from the organizations that belong as well as the individual businesses and individuals that contribute to it. They often also are working on direct projects along with other organizations, which is not uncommon for most small business organizations to really have different sources of revenue stream. And we offer benefits, and we derive some cash flow from those benefits we offer.
And for the South Carolina entity, of all the dues and contributions of any kind for projects or anything else, what percentage do you think come from trial lawyers or people associated with trial lawyers?
No more so than anybody else. The Association for Justice is a trade association member.
Well, you say no more so than anyone else.
No more so than any other trade.
If anyone else means other small business associations, their answer would be zero. I guarantee you.
Yeah, well,
so if your answer is anything above zero, that is very different. But go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt.
Well, let's put it this way. I disagree with this line of questioning our organization and our authenticity and who we represent in the decisions we make in the business. We have a board of directors. They make the decisions. They're made up of small business people. However we cobble together our resources to operate, and we don't operate with a very large budget. We probably operate with less than 3 days' budget of the National Manufacturers Association. So we do it because I can provide some resources to the organization that I have other sources of revenue through my small businesses, and so that's the way of life of small businesses. They are often under-resourced and overworked, but we do the best we can because we operate like a small business.
Okay, so again, what would that percentage be?
I honestly can't answer that question.
Okay.
I mean, I can if I go back, but I don't think it's relevant to this point of view.
Okay, well, just disagreement, I think it's very relevant. But thank you all very much for your testimony. This is a very important topic which we're certainly going to follow up on, and I'm going to continue working with all the committee members on a bipartisan bill to find additional ways to protect small businesses and ensure their voice is heard in the rulemaking process. So with that, the hearing is adjourned.